So let's get into the second half of games this week, where the Mets traveled to Cincinnati for a 3-game set against the Reds. On Friday's series opener, Jose Quintana made his second start of the season and was solid. 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts on 102 pitches. Quintana's fastball-sinker combo sat at 89 to 90 and topped 91 miles an hour, registering 6 total whiffs and 7 ground balls to end his day. Down 1-0 in the fifth, Francisco Lindor drove in the tying run on a sacrifice fly, and Pete Alonso gave the Mets the lead on a costly blunder by Elly De La Cruz to make it 2-1 Mets in the seventh. The call for insurance was then answered as Jeff McNeil blasted a solo shot to right, his first of the year, to make it 3-1 Mets in the eighth. And that insurance was very important, as Mets closer Edwin Diaz wasn't himself, but eventually locked it down, securing back-to-back wins for the Orange and Blue to take the series opener. On Saturday afternoon, Luis Severino got the start and was roughed up by the Mets defense early after miscues by Tyrone Taylor and Jeff McNeil to put the Mets down 2-0 in the second inning. But the big right-hander shoved from there, going 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts on 99 pitches. Severino's fastball sat at 95 to 96 and topped 98 miles an hour at a 53% usage, showcasing much improved overall pitch shape compared to his debut and registering 16 total whiffs. The Mets offense came alive in the fourth. Bases loaded, 1 out. Omar Narvaez drove in 2 on an RBI single to right to tie the game. Brandon Nimmo followed it up with an RBI double to make it 4-2 Mets. Tyrone Taylor would also add to the lead with an RBI double in the fifth to make it 5-2, but the Reds would get 2 back in the sixth after a walk and hit by pitch issued by Jake Diekman, followed by a Stuart Fairchild RBI single and a double steal of home blunder by catcher Omar Narvaez to make it a 1-run game. But everything settled down. Wait, Mets baseball, I forgot. Bottom of the eighth inning, it was a complete meltdown. Yohan Ramirez stayed in the game for a second inning of work, a walk, a balk, wild pitch, an excuse me hit by De La Cruz to tie the game. Spencer Steer blasted a 3-run homer to give the Reds an 8-5 lead, a bunt single, a walk to load the bases, a sacrifice fly to make it 9-5 Reds. A complete 5-run inning meltdown put the game out of reach as the Mets lost the second game of the series 9-6. In Sunday's rubber game, Sean Manaea made his second start in 2024, was good, but only went 5 innings after a taxing 4. 3 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts on 92 pitches. Manaea's fastball sat at 93 to 94 and topped 96 miles an hour at 49% usage, registering 12 total whiffs across 5 serviceable weapons on full display. The Mets offense drove in their first run in the first inning of the season on an RBI single that was a deflected ground ball off of first baseman Christian Encarnacion Strand to give the Mets an early 1-0 lead. The Mets created traffic on the bases in the second, but only added 1 more after Brandon Nimmo was hit by the pitch with the bases loaded to make it 2-0 Mets. Fast forward to the fourth, Mets shortstop Francisco Lindor delivered his first home run of the year to make it 3-0 Mets, and with a 3-1 score going into the sixth, the Mets bullpen took care of it from there with scoreless innings from Jorge Lopez, Brooks Raley, Adam Ottavino, and Edwin Diaz to finish off the series victory in Cincinnati. The Mets are now 3-6 on the young season, set to begin a 3-game series with their division rival Braves in Atlanta to start the week. Okay, I have got a lot to talk about. I don't even think I'm going to be able to even get to every single point, but...
Well, we should have swept. I do have some early concerns about Carlos Mendoza. There was some very questionable bullpen decisions there. Like, Yohan Ramirez has never even gone 32 pitches. He threw over 40 in that 1 inning. Like, what was that? I'm sure Yohan Ramirez, if he were just, they treat him like a 1-inning reliever, I'm sure he'd be fine. Like, I was thinking, where was Jorge Lopez? They should have been warming him up.
He was supposed to close.
That's what I can't stand. Exactly.
Like, obviously,
it's like planning ahead before anything ever happens. It's like ridiculous. I can't stand that.
Why not give Tehran 1 inning, see if he can hold it up?
Because he was going to start on Monday.
But they were discussing him going length if Severino couldn't give it to you anyway. The second they put out Yohan Ramirez for the second inning, I knew we weren't winning the game. Like, I had accepted the loss, even though we were up 2, because like his sinker is genuinely nasty. He is not a major league high leverage reliever to me whatsoever. I've said this time and time again. He has 0 tunnel ability. He has really subpar command. He has insane velocity difference between his slider and sinker. It's not compatible. He might have nasty stuff, but until he adds a cutter and throws it, he is not going to be successful in the majors. He has never been successful in the majors. He has never got chases at the majors. I don't see personally in the data we're seeing why that would ever continue. Mendoza did not put him in the situation to play well. But besides that, the offense was fine. It was way better. The pitching held up a lot. Luis Severino was amazing. He was getting batted around the first game, but still there was unluck involved. He probably could have gone 6 if not for Zach Short's error. If Tyrone Taylor really messed him up, Jeff McNeil really messed him up that second inning, he could have definitely maybe even pushed it into the 7th. And his fastball had the life that in prior years. There were points where he was sitting 98. All his pitches are nasty. And his sinker looks great too. I think it's a great pitch to use against righties. And he's striking people out. Like, this is a different pitcher than last year. And I know last week I was saying the opposite things. Severino, I always have been of the opinion that if he's healthy, he's going to pitch fine. I think that's what we're seeing here. The first game was very cold outside. It was very windy, and that has to play a factor. Looked like the guy that we paid $13 million to get, the guy that Stern said would be an integral part of our rotation. I am a little concerned about Jose Quintana. Does his role fine. There are innings where he's sitting 88 now. If he doesn't have pinpoint command, it could become trouble. He can't be sitting below 90 to be effective. I didn't get into Jose Budo from the Tigers series. I honestly am ready to put him in the rotation over McGill. I love McGill. He's unreliable. I think it's that simple to me. McGill is just a roller coaster, and Budo has a large pitch mix. He has a feel for all his pitches, and he gets the job done, and that's what he did the other day. Minaya just looks so good. I know he had 2 tough innings today, but he managed to sacrifice only 1 run. I love his fastball. I love his sweeper, and that cutter is really going to be a big pitch for him as well, an underrated pitch that's going to help him be effective. Great series besides, the unfortunate unavailability of a lot of our relievers. A guy like Jake Diekman, there were trends even from our bullpen, even though they got the job done for the most part. Getting 2 guys out, Lopez did it today. Diekman did it yesterday. He actually sacrificed 2 runs.
Raley did it today too, I think.
Raley did it today. Yes, he did. This bullpen needs another high leverage guy. It's a solid bullpen. Stearns did a great job building the bullpen. It needs another high leverage guy. Jorge Lopez, his velo has been down from spring to now, but his sinker is a pretty good pitch still. It has a lot more run than it did last year, which is, I don't know if he's flip-flopping, maybe a different sinker grip. With the stuff decline that we have seen from Lopez, I would hope that his command would look a lot better, which it has. There were a lot of things to be encouraged by with this series. Lindor finally woke up. That's an amazing sign going to Atlanta tomorrow. Next, we just got to look to win 1 or 2 from Atlanta. You have to steal a game from Atlanta. And if the Mets could steal tomorrow from Atlanta by some improbable way, that would be incredible.
To me, I always look at it in the long term, and not even that long term. I'm looking at just these next couple of weeks. And it's just crazy to me that the Mets' main problem for this month is actually going to be the rain. That's really what it's going to come down to, is that you had this built-in off day of Friday when the season started, which got ruined because Thursday got rained out, so you played Friday. Then you had another game get rained out, so you had a doubleheader. The Mets do not have another off day until April 18th. That's a Thursday. So not this Thursday coming up. The next Thursday is their next off day. And on Saturday, already, the Mets bullpen is totally taxed. They had to leave Yohan Ramirez in there just to get shelled. Absolutely crushed. So you say, okay, fine. 1 game. It's 1 game, right? Let's not get too crazy about it. But what happens the next day? Sean Manaea goes 5 innings. You had to use your normal combination. Lopez, Raley, Ottavino, Diaz. What does that mean for tomorrow? Are those guys out again? And now Reed Garrett just has to go 3 innings
3 out of 4 days they've pitched. So yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, so then it becomes 5 out of 6. And then they get a day off. And then it's going to be like, we can't use them Wednesday because they had to pitch Tuesday. You know what I mean? This is the situation we're in, where it's going to be if they're done, if they're maxed out on Saturday and still have almost another 2 weeks to pitch, how are they going to possibly do that? So between they have no off days because of the rain. No one could go more than 5 innings. I mean, you had Quintana go 5 2/3. no one could get out of the 6th inning. No one could do it. So since everyone's going 5, it's like Ron Darling was saying, you get 5 from your starters and then 4 from the bullpen. It's almost equal. That's not supposed to happen. And, to Rhodes' point, the Mets don't have the bullpen for this to happen, because that means that you're counting on Yohan Ramirez to be your setup man in the 8th inning. It means that you're counting on Michael Tonkin in extra innings twice because you had to use all your other good arms. The Mets don't have this kind of super bullpen. And you know what? A guy like Brett Suter, you could say, oh, he's not that great, whatever, but look what he did for Cincinnati. He won a few innings. They didn't have to max out their bullpen. I think that the Mets have too many one-inning relievers, and these guys are not good enough to all just be your one-inning relievers. You got to have at least, we talked about it a bunch of times. A long man, a guy that goes multiple innings is so valuable, especially now in this modern game of baseball that I'm like, how are they going to actually navigate this next week or two with literally no rested arms? Because everyone can only pitch. No one can pitch consecutive days already because of the situation that they were in this past week. That's insane. It really is. And, call me an old man or whatever, but it's changed. The way starters are utilized, and what's crazy is that even with starting pitchers not pitching as much as they used to, they'll all still get hurt. That's crazy that these guys are pitching less, yet getting hurt more. It's a crazy game that they're playing right now. And, the person, like the fan in me, the jealous person in me, Steve Cohen has all this money. He invested in a massive scoreboard. I wish he would have invested it in a retractable roof, because then your team would actually be more beneficial. You want to start winning games, Steve Cohen? You want to get return on your investment? How about a roof so your team has off days? Not a big-ass scoreboard. That ain't going to help you win nothing.
And don't even get me started on the dance team. All right.
That's a whole nother investment.
And that brings me to my point, especially with what we saw from this series, the main example of that. Every single thing that you just said, all can be solved with a 6-man rotation. Senga's out. You don't really have any big update on him. McGill might get back in a few weeks, but again, you don't even know if he's capable to be a starter workload anymore. That extra day of rest, because not to mention what you have right now. What did they say before that Tiger series started? The Mets had 15 games in 14 days.
Yes. Yep.
Extra day of rest for that rotation piece, and not to mention that 6th arm can also be a long relief piece if you need him. You get an extra day of rest for every single one of these pitchers. They can pitch at more of max effort without getting hurt with that extra day of rest. They can also provide, with that max effort, more of the game's best defense, which is strikeouts. Not to mention, with the defense you're getting right now, you had volume issues because of age, fatigue, and health last year. This year, you're having volume issues because the defense looked like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off.
I tweeted it, but I asked myself, I'm like, is the defense this bad? Or is the coaching bad? Or is it both?
We can do a separate episode on how bad the coaching is. I don't even want to get into that.
They can't catch a ball. They don't know where each other are positioned. Brett admitted he didn't know where Lindor was. You had Narvaez getting fooled with a little league play, with the guy stealing home. This guy was a veteran on the team, one of the oldest guys on the team. The stuff that just happens game in, game out in the field. If the ball gets hit in the infield, you're holding your breath because you're like, what's going on here? And it's like you said, we don't have the offense to overcome that. You don't have the bullpen to overcome that. And, like Roda said, but these pitchers having those 10 extra pitches, those 12 extra pitches, that's another inning.
They add up. They add up. They stack.
In the long run. A combination of, if you're bad in a lot of different areas, you're bad at the plate, you're bad in the field, it's hard to win ball games. And, right now they're, 3-6 and what have you. But I just think that long term, it's okay, sure. Nimmo his hits start to fall. Lindor doesn't play this bad. Okay, those things are fine. But if the bullpen is going to be this taxed to the point you're just going to leave a guy out there no matter how many runs he gives up, the offense isn't good enough to overcome that. I just think that, Yaxel Rios, just when you're looking at the arms, unless you want to carry a third lefty and Nate Lavender, because, a lot of these other guys, Kyle Crick is hurt. I mean, as we know, Montes de Oca hurt.
Kyle Crick actually started for St. Lucie today on a rehab assignment.
Kyle Crick, okay. So at least he's kind of, trying to work his way back. But right now it's like, do you run the risk of Fujinami and his walk problem? I mean, do they start up that experiment again? Because there's more upside with a Fujinami than a Yohan Ramirez or Michael Tonkin, but it's stuff like this where it's hard. Again, it's hard to watch on multiple areas, but it's too early in the season to be in a tough spot, and you're like, okay, now we're just gonna sign Julio Teheran and now go face like the best offense in the league.
I would just like to say about Fujinami is not an option to me at all. Like I think the door on Fujinami is almost completely closed. Like the dude he's hitting everybody, he's walking everybody in AAA. Like, it's not happening. I hate to be so negative, but like his command is just so messed up.
There is another option that if he stopped hitting batters, he would be a great option in AAA as known as Grant Hartwig. He does have, whether it's the separation on the sinker and the slider, he does have a cutter in there, but also he knows how to get these ground balls. The problem is that you're worried about, can they actually turn the damn double play? Because there's been so many fundamentally sound issues so far in these first 9 games, 10 games, something like that. It's just been a big concern, not to mention with defense. Another point I want to point out, if Omar Narvaez didn't have that such great game offensively, I would have sat on the bench with you, Frank, on that. He would be my next DFA out of here. Because dear God, Yohan Ramirez was not good in that 8th inning. He didn't do him any favors whatsoever. Not to mention another thing that we can add here, which, again, this can be a whole other topic. Yohan Ramirez was basically put out there to die, basically. Yes, I understand you don't have any options. They pushed him there.
But doing something like that, you could, because you're trying to save those other arms, you could have got him hurt doing it.
Here's the problem with what they did. I understand you were taxed. If you were going to leave him out there, fine. I get it. Shit scenario. Here's the problem. You have him out there, clearly rattled. Defensive miscues, basically on the Steven Matz level of completely rattled. Defensive miscues, walking batters, hitting batters. Where's Jeremy Hefner?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where's Jeremy Hefner?
Oh, God. Don't get me started with him. Oh.
Where's Omar Narvaez? Where's he going out to the mound? This is the problem with this game. Not to mention, I love my talent, my high profile velocity, my high stuff or whatever, my strikeout stuff coming out of the bullpen. But there's also a mental game to it. If your pitcher is clearly rattled, you go out there and you talk to him before it's too late, before the game gets out of hand. And where the hell was he? That's one of my main problems with Jeremy Hefner. Again, not to mention, we can go into a huge in-depth analysis of how Jeremy Hefner is limiting a lot of this. We can also go into a deep analysis of what he's done well that kind of shades a lot of the shit that he hasn't been able to do. The same thing happened with Sean Manaea, too. He hit 2 batters or whatever. Where the hell is Jeremy Hefner? For some reason, the Mets coaching staff sometimes, they're not quick on their feet. Like, they don't make the quick adjustment. They don't see something and right away, before they stop the bleeding, they just let it go. And again, I understand having Ramirez in the game. You had to have him in the game. You had nobody available. But do you get a fine if you go out to the mound? Like, what is the deal? I see Alvarez go out to the mound more than Narvaez, more than Hefner, even more than the manager sometimes. When a 22-year-old is showing you up, that's insane.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. He's the youngest guy, but he seems to have the most smarts.
Narvaez, he's really confusing because he used to be a catcher who could hit but couldn't catch. Yeah. Then he turned into a catcher that could catch but couldn't hit. And now it seems like he's just regressed.
Now he can't do anything.
He was brought in to be a defensive catcher, to mentor a guy like Francisco Alvarez. Alvarez, obviously, he took the job and ran away with it.
He's looking pretty McCannish out there.
He looks like the rookie catcher.
Tomas Nido will frame the pitches, will make the quick throw to second base when they're stealing from his knees. Tomas Nido will do that. He will do that. He will play good defense.
I mean, I said this on Twitter a few days ago, and it just continued to be right over and over again as it continued to get painful to see this guy behind the plate. Here's what I said. I literally said, Omar Narvaez has been here for less than 2 years. All I have seen him do consistently is commit interference, call garbage on 2 strikes, and lollipop throws to second and third. It's hard to believe that before he was a Met, he was one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. I mean, seriously, what a fall from grace. That's insane. I don't care what he does, to be honest, on offense. If you're not providing the defense that you were paid to give us to, Jesus Christ. There's tons of backup catchers that I'd rather have here that can actually provide those type of defensive intangibles. He's been awful.
That would be so valuable to have that, though. Like, look, I would take 2022 Tomas Nido in a heartbeat as our backup. Look, he's a 72 bat. Who cares? He's the backup. Like, he plays elite, like, genuinely elite defense. Like, I would so take Tomas Nido right now.
Also, that other catcher we have in Syracuse, what's his name? Austin Allen? He's a pretty good defender as well. He also can hit some bombs. Yeah, I mean...
Nido had a minus 24 WRC plus last year.
Yeah, he can't hit for his life.
I don't know if he's the solution, but, like, you could trade for a solid defensive... Like, trade for Trevino. I'm sure the Yankees would like to get rid of him. Like, they have Austin Wells. They have other guys. I mean, they got rid of Higashioka, so... And Narvaez would have been the perfect fit as the backup catcher if he were what we signed him. If he were his Milwaukee defense with their insane catching lab, we would have been fine. He would have been awesome as the backup. But, it is what it is.
I'm just not seeing it whatsoever. I always saw, even though they had so much success with the Burns, Woodruff, Peralta, or whatever that rotation was in Milwaukee the last few years, you saw Omar Narvaez not only be a huge contributor to their success, but it just seemed like he knew how to dial these guys in as well, like if they were in a jam. And you just don't see that. There's just no one to take that initiative quickly. They always wait to the last second. They always wait until the bleeding already starts. It's just a little too stressful of a series to call it a series win.